I came down to the shores of Strangford Lough near Portaferry, looking for a secret RAF site from the Second World War. But before I ever got near that, these old stone walls stopped me dead. Built into the masonry were these strange metal discs. At first glance, I thought I'd found part of some wartime bunker, but I hadn't. These ruins are much older. What I'd actually stumbled across was a battery of 18th century lime kilns, built around 1784 as part of the Mount Stewart estate right here on the edge of the lough. This was proper industry in its day. Men here stacked layers of limestone and coal, sometimes colm, into tall kiln shafts. Then they lit a fire at the base and let it burn for days, sometimes even weeks, at temperatures above 900 degrees Celsius. What came out was quicklime. That quicklime was used on fields to help with acidic soil and in building work for mortar and plaster, and with the water right beside them, boats could pull up here, unload stone and fuel, then carry the finished lime away again. It was the perfect spot for it, and once you start looking closely, the details are brilliant. The openings at the base are almost exactly the size of a person lying down or crawling in. That wasn't by accident. Workers had to get right inside to rake out the burned lime and keep the fire going. And those metal pieces in the walls are some of the most interesting parts of the whole structure. There are two main types. The long, rusty vertical bars are iron tie rods running right through the thick masonry. The bigger oval or disc-shaped plates with those projecting arms are called pattress plates. You might also hear them called anchor plates or wall washers. The heat inside these kilns was fierce. The stone expanded, the load pushed outward, and the walls were under constant pressure. So these iron fittings acted like clamps, holding everything together and helping stop the kiln from cracking apart or collapsing. You can even see different sizes and styles, which suggest repairs and strengthening over the years. It's a brilliant bit of old industrial engineering. And even though it was built for work, it still had that estate look to it. This was part of the Mount Stewart estate, owned by the Marquess of Londonderry, and even structures like this could be given a slightly Gothic, almost castellated feel to suit the wider landscape. But as interesting as all that was, it still wasn't what I'd come looking for. I was here for something from the 1940s, so I kept going. And just a short walk further along the same shoreline in the Plantation area, I found exactly what I'd been searching for. An abandoned RAF quadrant shelter, part of a secret wartime bombing and rocket firing range on Strangford Lough. And once you see it, you can start reading the story in the building itself. That large front opening, or what may once have been windows facing the lough, has been bricked up. The outside was later plastered or rendered over too. That was probably done after the war, maybe to secure the site, maybe to weatherproof it, or maybe to give it some later use so it wasn't left standing wide open to the wind and the sea. Even now, you still get incredible views through the gaps that remain. Inside, one detail really stood out to me. That light blue timber fixed to the wall is almost certainly the remains of a plotting table or workbench. This is likely where the RAF men sat with their instruments, recording data, checking angles, and tracking results. And then there are the marks in the concrete. This is one of my favorite details on the whole site. Around the doors and window openings, you can still see scratched guidelines and height marks. The builders scored those datum lines straight into the wet cement, so every opening would be properly level and perfectly aligned. It's like seeing a wartime blueprint frozen into the structure. A tiny detail, but a brilliant one. And here's where the place really comes to life. RAF aircraft from nearby bases, including Ballyhalbert and Long Kesh, flew out over the lough to practice bombing and rocket attacks on moored target rafts out in the water. Small teams here in this shelter and at its matching post over at Killyleagh used surveying instruments to track where the bombs or rockets landed. They measured angles, plotted impact points, and scored the crews for accuracy. This wasn't just random flying about. It was serious wartime training. The sort of preparation needed for fighter-bomber operations, for coastal strikes, and for the wider air war, including the run-up to D-Day and the Battle of the Atlantic. So standing here now, in the silence, it's strange to imagine what this place once sounded like. Aircraft overhead, engines across the water, observers at their instruments, bombs and rockets hitting targets out on the lough. Then the war ended.